And we're live. All right, everyone. Thanks for joining today. But Everett Lynn from Amenify. We got a chance to meet up at AIM. And thank you for dinner, by the way. Still appreciative of that.
Of course. Yeah. Shout out to Tomahawk Todd.
Tomahawk Todd.
That whole steak.
Yep. Best deal ever. Tomahawk Tuesday. I was looking for $3 tacos. We ended up, with a different number, but it was lots of fun. And, but I think it was very interesting to connect and jam on stuff. And we kind of randomly hooked up and I appreciate the conversation. Things that I still obsess about from that first conversation was how you kind of enlightened me on the distribution side of things. And I hope we touch on that a little bit today, because I've got Raymond from Perpexo tomorrow or later on in the week, and distribution is a big part of their business with respect to integrations. And so just like learning and being attuned to that channel, what that means is I'm just like hyper aware now. So thank you for that conversation. For everyone listening today, again, hell yes, is a conversation about buyers, what they're trying to solve for, and from the seller's perspective. We are always seeking to find buyers that have identified what their problem are. If we find ourselves educating the buyer on the problem, we know that we're in for a long haul. But that's not obvious for everybody, right? It's not obvious what state they're in, what problem they're seeking to solve. And so this is kind of the riddle that we're all trying to figure out, is whereas a seller may have urgency associated to the quarter or performance targets, the buyer may not. How can we find the right buyers? All those kind of conversations. Like always, if you have any questions, please shoot them in the comments here. We'll get to them as we go throughout. This is brought to you by IRCX for AI remote maintenance software, helping you save a trip, know where you go. All right. We always start, Everett, a dynamic personality, a great leader. A little bit about yourself. How did you get into this role? What's the problem you guys saw in Amenify?
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate you having me on, Guillermo. And likewise, it was great to have dinner. And what I love about the industry is getting to meet nice people, attacking kind of the general challenges from different directions. My background, gosh, I come from like a family of scientists. I thought I was going to work in oil and gas, and then I got pulled into real estate. And I moved out to San Francisco 14 years ago, and ended up working for an investment group, a fund, a real estate private equity fund. And I was probably too curious, I keep coming up with various solutions to various problems problems that were not priorities for a real estate fund, right? Like buy it, fix it, sell it. And so I was always kind of curious about tech. I ended up doing night school at Berkeley while I was still at the fund. I was like electrical grid engineering and certifications. And I worked on a little company nights and weekends. It was like smart sensors that you would communicate on power lines. And I remember being so excited, I took it back to the managing directors of the fund, and they're like, what? Like, who are you? Why do we need this? And I was like, no, look, it'll help us catch leaks in our industrial portfolios so we don't get hit with a $7 million after the fact hit. Some water got into the membrane. Yeah. And they're like, well, okay, cool. But like, that's not your job. Like, let's get back to buying stuff. And then so for Amenify, what became Amenify was really like a napkin project where we had, tens of thousands of rental units. And we're like, gosh, we have all this cool resident data. Nobody here seems to care about it, whether it's at the asset management level or the property management level. It's just like, hey, engage residents, retain residents, but didn't really lean into the commerce side of things because it's a little hard. And so I thought that would be an easy solution because I couldn't find anything in the market. But I was like, oh, this will be so easy. And then
just build two-sided marketplace. Two-sided marketplace.
Yeah, and it's really three-sided. Yeah, so because Amenify has three sides. So there's, step one is we partner with the big property managers or property management platforms like a RealPage or Entrata. We just announced we're going to power all of Entrata Homebody, which is exciting. So that's going to add several million users. And then we have obviously a resident app where they can see their pros, track their pros, interact with concierge support, order lifestyle services, get the money we give them. And then the most robust technology piece is the service provider management piece. So like, how do you go find and manage, track, train, nice cleaners and handymen and painters and dog walkers and chores teams. And then you integrate with a food delivery solution, but how do you track the driver? Because if a resident orders food or groceries.
Oop. We just lost Everett. He'll be back. He'll be back. Let's see. I wonder if he knows he's back. Well, this is always interesting about a live show. So I'll talk a little about the distribution pieces that Everett and I chatted about at AIM. And one of the things that was interesting about distribution, until he gets back here, distribution is that when you take a look at distribution, when we think about selling often in the property management side of things, we often think about, okay, so how do we, who's the owner, who's the buyer, how does that benefit them? And then ultimately, there he goes, back now. You're back.
Hey. Yeah, it was like it was a permissions issue with StreamYard, I think. But it was funny. It yanked me, and I never lost you, but it just told me I was backstage, and I was like, it was like getting the immediate curtain call or like a hook.
The Daffy Duck hook.
The audience doesn't like what you're saying. We're bringing in our next panelist. All right, out with the old, in with the new. Here's Bob.
All right.
Okay, so
perfect. So then I usually tease the audience about distribution, but you're getting your three-sided marketplace. Third part of your
service pros, property managers, and residents. But this was a sneak preview at the art of selling in PropTech is people want what they can't have. So I immediately removed myself to try to build anticipation, and maybe that works, maybe that doesn't. And so yes, I want to wrap it up and pass it back to you for another question after coming back on stage. But like 8 years later, in 1,000 cities, it's like 4 million units partnered, and we're going to grow to it's crazy, but 15 million units in the next couple of years. Units and homes, HOAs. We signed our first big HOA, and so got really lucky with timing, and the teams worked hard to kind of get through the rough pieces. But it's a lot of fun, and excited to talk about the distribution, because you can have a cool product, but if you don't have the right distribution channel, it's kind of dead on arrival.
You're playing on hard mode.
Yeah.
So the problem that you solve for Amenify for folks that are kind of new to the brand.
Yeah. So we have three stakeholders that we care about, but I'll speak about property managers, because that's probably the broader audience here of this channel. Is when we partner with a PMC, so it's typically 10,000 units to 50,000 units. We work with them directly, or we work with a big platform like a RealPage or an Entrata. And the thesis is really simple. It just says, hey, residents are looking for convenience. They're looking for lifestyles. Let's hire pros for every property. Let's bring in all the local merchants. Let's bring in all the local restaurants, local grocery stores. Let's have everything be tracked, insured, compliant, real-time concierge support, phone, text, chat. And the pain point is you want to engage residents, retain them, give something to help your leasing teams, and then drive ancillary income. Mm-hmm. But it really is ancillary. So the top priority is do nice things for residents. Number one, far and away, number one.
Yeah.
And then number two, and that's what we call it ancillary, is that once you fulfill on making residents happy and on-site managers happy, very important, then you can step into hey, let's make money together, because property managers have so much potential because they have data, access to the home, and then what we call life event segmentation, or just when people move in, they change their spending patterns, they're buying new services, they're forming new habits. The average new mover will engage with 73 new brands and spend $9,000 in the first 90 days after a move. And that could be anything, from lifestyle service teams to they buy a new TV. That's when they switch brands from pet food. They're like, hey, I used to use this type of pet food. That was the old version of me. I am the new version of me. I will be upgrading my pet food because I just upgraded my life moving into this nice new apartment. And so it's kind of pouncing on all of those things, but harnessing it in a way to make the residents happy, make life better for the on-site teams, and then drive leasing and driving retention.
Yeah. and if they didn't have Amenify, what would they do? And let's maybe speak to the property managers, but how do the property managers don't create the event? The event comes from the resident and then the service provider. That's the magic. Mm-hmm. And they're the property managers, the distribution channel. So they get to charge a fee for that transaction. So but the resident, otherwise, what would they do? If they didn't have Amenify, they would go do the work.
I'll speak broadly because I want to make this applicable to any business anywhere. Because there's always anytime somebody comes up to me and says, "Hey, I want to pitch this new product or a prop tech company. We don't have any competition. I'm like, it's not the right
Yeah.
answer. There's always competition, even if it's system status quo. And so for us, um, since time immemorial, as long as there's been people living in buildings, there's been people that sell stuff that try to partner with that building because they're like, hey, people buy my product, my service, whatever.
Yeah.
You have a bunch of people. Let's work together.
Yeah.
And so what we overwhelmingly see, and this is the last 100 years, probably 1,000 years, but it's like usually what happens is that there's like an on-site manager that's proactive and she's wonderful, and she went to high school with somebody that runs a cleaning company or dog walking company or
Yeah. Tanning
a car
salon,
a car
hair
washing
cutter.
company,
Yeah.
right, or a pet food company, like whatever this stuff is. And then they just hand out coupons. Like some of like the big REITs still have these physical coupon books. Like you like walk like a consumer in the year of our Lord 2025 wants to walk down to the lobby and open up a coupon book and like look manually for like a recommended coupon. So that's kind of like table stakes, like literally on a table somewhere.
Yeah.
And then we see some applications that will lean in and digitize that. But it's no better or different than something like Honey or like a Chrome plugin
Mhm.
that a consumer would use to be like, hey, find me deals, right? Like no one's going to log into an app to look at coupons. Again, like consumers are past that. Um, and so what we try to do is create infrastructure around that and be like, hey, if people are coming into your properties, let's know who they are, let's track them, let's make sure that they're insured, and let's make sure that it's structured in a way that adds value. So like the people, like a service pro knows where to park, they know how to get into the property, and like this is what they want. Like they're
Yeah.
hoping to have that kind of partnership if they work with a building. And then we do all the hard integrations. And so it's whether it's back end Yardi, front end Entrata, um, yeah, compliance on Vendor Depot. Like there's just like all these layers that have stopped local businesses and local service pros from partnering with every property.
Right.
So that's our mission, is strengthening communities and really helping the service pro, helping the resident, and then do this in a way that benefits the property manager.
So, and I think what's interesting is that, of course, we call this getting the hell yes. And the buyer, you mentioned earlier, like the three stakeholders, like when you consider, like you've got kind of like or it sounds like there's two stages of buyers. There's first, there's access to distribution. And then you have to make it successful after that, where the resident and the supplier both have a mutually beneficial relationship. That is just the conduit of that is Amenify, along with the access, like the channel, right? The manager. And so for everyone listening, I mean, it's probably not obvious who your buyer is. Like you've got gatekeepers. So who, and that's in the way you described it, who is your, like you count $15 million, that's where your platform is held, but somebody signs a contract at some point in time. Who's that person?
Yeah. So that we have a hierarchy, and I think every business, especially a marketplace, needs to have a hierarchy. So you can prioritize decisions and create a framework, because you
Mhm.
can't make everybody happy all the time. This is not possible. And so the top of our pyramid is the resident. The resident's the most important. This is the
Mhm.
majority of our revenue is from residents buying stuff, right? And then there's the second layer, which is the on-site property managers, but also
Mhm.
like really the decision maker for us is an SVP of operations, an SVP of marketing, occasionally someone in finance that just says, hey, I want to help my residents, and I want to make more money, and I
Mhm.
want to make life easy for my on-site teams. That's usually the parameters. And I would argue that's like there's like 90% of prop tech right there
Yeah.
is like in that order. And then the third and also important is service providers. We want to make their
Mhm.
lives better. And there are times when a resident is having a bad day and they just want to take it out on somebody, and they're very tough on a service provider. And then our concierge is like, hey, sorry, it looks like Steve had a bad day. Really took it out on our cleaner. Steve, we're going to put you in a cool down period. And because we our cleaners and the handyman and all these people that work so hard in the field, like this wasn't fair to them either.
Yeah.
And so and we've got 20 not hardworking people that just manage this stuff all day every day, because these are humans that are going out in 1,000 cities and
Sure.
doing real jobs for real people. And so you can have like we have stages of DEFCON levels for our customer support, but it's all real time. So um, I think for your audience, and what I've seen and watching the nice shows you put on in the past, is like the ultimate decision maker for us is that leader of resident user experience. And there's usually like 5 titles that we care about. And so when we go to these nice conferences, we're trying to make sure that they have some understanding of what we do, some understanding that their competitors are benefiting from what we do and
Hmm.
helping them. And so they're like, oh, hey, I saw you launched with all of Entrata. So we had a nice sit down with XYZ property management platform. And they're like, how do you help them? And so it's like, it just kind of like sets the table so that there's a little bit of understanding. Because you mentioned something earlier about education. Gosh, that's something I wish I'd learned earlier, is like, it's way easier to come in, point at another product and say, hey, we do that, but our mousetrap is 30% better. And here's the number and here's the white paper, you should switch. And that's just really how our buyers work in property management. It's been very hard, especially for the first 4 years, to like articulate a resident commerce platform. People are
Hmm.
like, I don't know, I'm trying to solve fraud. This was like hot a few years ago. I'm trying to solve billing. This is becoming more hot now, like what John Hinckley's working on at Billy. And there's usually like cycles where it's like 2 years, everybody's buying this kind of solution or buying this type of
Yeah.
solution, and they throw like an army of salespeople. And so for anybody out there that's trying to educate somebody, um, it's nice to have some kind of analog. It's like, hey, we're like this, but we do it
Yeah.
in this way. And just so your audience can get their minds around it, because they need to understand what you do in 7 seconds. And ideally it's a picture with no more than 4 words. That's what they got time for. If you if you hand somebody a stack of papers, like of 2,000 words, like 0 of them will get read. They won't even read the title.
Yeah.
Um, and that's what I've learned. And so we've really benefited from the tailwinds in the market. So like Built rewards, they're different than what we do. Like we don't compete with Built, um, but they've kind of woken up the whole real estate industry to the power of resident commerce, because they're buying users to get credit cards set up, and then they're
Yep.
opening up the outside world of merchants, which is what we believe in too. We just attacked it a little bit differently. We just went to all the local pros, and so the timing for us has been nice recently.
Is resident commerce a commonly used expression?
No, it wasn't even common for me. I started using it 4 months ago, 6 months ago,
Okay.
like very recently in like the lifespan of the business. And we really evolved. It was like, um, we added a few more services, and we went from like, you know, lifestyle platform to a AI powered home services manager. And then we started adding in fintech partnerships. We started adding in e-commerce products, like residents can buy pet food, they can buy coffee and tea subscriptions, stuff like that. And I'm like, ooh, this is really more like commerce. And that's
Yeah.
resonated really nicely with our big partners and our investors that are looking for like a little bit of uh, plugin that kind of round out their technology stack. So it's kind of funny. We were bobbing and weaving because you want to be similar enough that they know what you do, but different enough that you
Yep.
can carve a little wiggle room in and say, hey,
Yep.
we're like this group, but we're not that group. And like, we can help you at this stage of the resident journey for your X million
Yep.
residents. And they're like, great. So it's never done. It'll always be evolving.
Well, I've been very, so I'm at this similar inflection point in terms of like clarity. I mean, because like understanding how I can explain what we do, like, I mean, and it's particularly coming out of the brain, like the mashed up wire mess of a founder's brain it's almost unfair, right? And then where it came to me, I was talking to, it might even been Ben from Perplexo back at Blueprint. And I was explaining what I was doing, what we do to somebody, kind of like the conference scenario where you're two people are talking, the third person walks up, right? And then you kind of like do a quick little intro. Here's what you do. And I was stumbling on what we do. And Ben's like telemaintenance. And I was like, yeah, it's exactly what we do. And then the guy got it right away. So I just caught, and so,
Yeah,
well, it's not a great word.
it's so
Everyone
true.
gets it right away,
It's almost, I would argue, that is more important than whatever you say,
Yeah,
because
fair
you are
word.
one person, I am one person. But let's say we both know 50 people that have some rough understanding of what we do. Their ability to communicate information, think like memetics, think like virality, like how viral can like something spread. It's not like what you do. It's about what you tell people and what those second degree people will tell the next layer of people.
Hmm.
Because if those 50 people talk to 10 each, there's another 500 people that now know what you do. So what is that one sentence that your friend will tell their friend? And
Yep.
I encourage everybody to like hammer away at that, pull in your friends, and like crowdsource that with like some trusted people that know the industry, because I think every founder is hoping to get like an hour of unadulterated attention to talk about all the bells and whistles, right? And that never happens. It's like,
Mhm.
and then the common trope is the elevator. You don't get an elevator's worth of time. You usually get one sentence because it's someone else talking about you,
Yeah.
like in another room. And so yeah, it's powerful,
And
especially in
there's,
our
and there's
industry
a,
that's so relationship driven.
and to your point, like I think there's like a factorial. I don't think using that word, but like there's like a
Yeah, no,
multiplying
it's
element to it in terms of the
exponential. Yeah,
complexity. If you've got more, the more words you have, the more probable it's gonna be too much work to explain. They're gonna get it wrong, and then someone's gonna have the wrong impression of what you do and the problem that you solve. And
hmm
so like trying to get it down, and it's been hard to get to one word. And the irony is that the one word kind of always existed in a similar market. To your point, I can say one word now, and the analog is triggered, the simplicity is triggered, and that gives me permission to have the next conversation. But if I don't get if I can't get the key in the door, there's no chance to think about what's going to get beyond that.
for
So that's
sure.
been
And
really
what is your one word or one
helpful.
sentence?
Telemaintenance software,
Yeah,
right? And
great.
then everyone goes, and they go, well, what's that? And I'll say, well, are you familiar with telemedicine? Yeah. Are you familiar with teleinsurance? Yeah. Just like that for maintenance. Oh,
Yeah,
that seems to make sense. Why doesn't
I
everybody
love
else
it.
know that, right? And they go, well, because it's a lot of work, I guess, and people don't get it, or they all these other objections that might naturally emerge. But it's like, yeah, I mean, and then what's really become helpful in that explanation is
hmm
that I go, well, medicine suffers and insurance suffers the same problem. Like the patient is at risk of explaining the problem and suggesting a diagnosis. There's not enough doctors, and things be done fast. How do you feel about your job? Is a resident good at explaining the problem? No. Is there enough maintenance techs to solve all the problems in the world? No. Does it have to be done fast? Yes. Same problem, same solution. How about
hmm
that?
I love it. Yeah, telemaintenance. Is that
Yeah.
one word? Is that a hyphenated word? Might be
Cap-
two words.
capitalize the M. The M's
Yeah,
capitalized. There you go.
nice. Yeah, trademark. I
But
trademarked this one word.
it is, but you know what I found is that and this is in terms of getting to hell yes. If you can't put your product in a box, more importantly, in a budget line, you're not going to get bought. And so they've
hmm
got to be seeking to solve that problem somewhere else or somehow else, versus finding your solution. Like going in with the assumption that they're not going to think of your product first.
hmm
You've got to show up in how they're articulating the problem, how they're articulating the question. So
Totally
like,
agree.
and then when you guys land the plane, how do you guys hit that?
Yeah, I mean, just brute force over so many years. I like the joke I'll make with our investors is like, it was like we were building a sandcastle, but we didn't have enough water for the first 4 or 5 years. So you're kind of just scooping sand as much as you
Yeah.
can. And like the sand comes back down because there's no water. You're like, okay, I'll scoop it again. But if I could, snap my fingers and I had an opportunity to do it again more quickly, I think that I'd probably spend way more on marketing earlier and just to lay a ground layer
Mhm.
down. And like for everybody out there, depending on where they're at in the cycle or maturation of a product, I think work hard, don't make it perfect, but just get something live, get a prototype, get a case study, right? Like find a client, find your friend, and just make sure it works, and then iterate on it, make a V2, V3. But then as soon as you have that, and you're going to go to market, you've got to spend money on marketing first,
Mhm.
and then because there has to be some semblance of what you do, or you're going to burn many quarters trying to get that phone call and explain what you do. And then once that's done, they take it to their stakeholders, and their stakeholders are like, okay, cool. I think that helps us. We'll take the meeting, but like with intent.
Mhm.
And I've probably done thousands of pitches where someone was like doing me a favor to like, I don't really understand what you do, but I'll take the meeting. And they're like, okay, I think I got it. And I'm going to go back, and like, okay, the people in the other room, to your point, like didn't understand what
Mhm.
this person was doing in describing our business. And so I think now spending a little bit of money, I mean, we've been doing it long enough. I think, we've seen progress in the market and kind of understanding what we do, like powered service pros and resident lifestyle. Um, and I'm trying to, I don't want this to be about Amenify. I want this to be helpful to your audience. I think understanding like what is that juice and the squeeze. This is what we call like the return on
Mhm.
investment, right? And return being juice, investment being squeeze. Because every client is saying like, okay, how bad do I want this juice? And then how hard is this company asking me to work for it?
Mhm.
And and so PropTech, I mean, sales cycles take 9 months to 4 years, 5 years. We're expanding, with the big real estate company, Cortland, and I'm no joke. I think it's been like 6 years in the making.
Mhm.
And so, um, the to help the salespeople or like the people that are trying to like work harder to make the deals happen, is you've got to make the juice as simple and as big as possible, and you've got to be honest about the squeeze and work with your product teams and in-house and your engineering teams or your support teams or your implementation teams to make the squeeze as little as possible. And so for everybody out there, that probably means you got to pay the check to Yardi, you got to pay the check to RealPage, you got to pay the check to Entrata or anybody that you're integrating with,
Mhm.
Perpexo, like like whatever requirements that reduce the friction. You got
Mhm.
to bet on yourself, get those done first, because you'll lose a lot of cycles if you're like, hey, sign this contract and then I'll go remove the friction. The real estate client doesn't want to hear that. You really, and for us, it was a tremendous amount of investment to remove the friction because in addition to all those integrations, insurance, compliance, cybersecurity, SOC 2, whatever, we also had to go to service pros in like 100
Mhm.
cities. And then that was 1,000. It's a lot easier. But it's never going to be the same for any two companies. But I think a lot of founders will err on the side of saying like, "Ooh, I'll reduce the friction gradually." I think if I wanted to like jumpstart it from scratch again, I'd do way more to reduce the friction right out of the gate,
Yep.
than like chip away at it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so if I play it back to you, so and maybe I followed a similar arc, is that like investors want to invest in a visionary product experience, but buyers don't want to buy a visionary product experience.
No,
They
no,
need, it needs,
buyers will buy like a specific value point, not your feature, the value, right?
Mhm.
They'll buy like where your car will get them to, but they don't care about the car.
Yeah, yeah, and they want it to be very similar to what they're doing today, which is a little bit different.
Yes, they will. It's sad, but like this is the reality. Our buyers want an incremental solution
Mhm.
because there's you've heard the term FOMO, but have you heard the term
FOMU,
FOFU, FOFU?
FOMU, FOMU. Oh, and Everett's bouncing a bunch here. FOMU. We're talking about FOMU, fear of messing up. Yes, that is a very real thing. And if you read the book, The Jolt Effect by Matt Dixon, he talks a lot about FOMU. And FOMU is the
Yeah,
fear of messing up. And
that's
Matt
better.
Dixon,
Yeah, that's more politically correct than
yeah,
I do.
FOMU, fear. Matt Dixon
And
talks a lot about in The Jolt Effect. FOMU is
yeah,
way more powerful than FOMO.
and like there was Stephanie Furman when she was leading innovation for Greystar. They had this really cool panel. I think it was like South by Southwest, and she was like, think of it like a scale, where like on one side of the scale you have innovation, and the other side of the scale you have efficiency. And on like every step you take in one direction pulls from the other. Founders, we're all impatient. We want solutions instantly. Let's innovate. Like we're like 90% innovation,
Yeah,
10% efficiency. That's not our buyer. And our buyers are at least the opposite. Maybe they're 10%
yeah,
innovation. It's probably more like 95% efficiency.
yep.
And so every decision they're making, they're calibrating like how many people does this change their workflow for? What's the downside here? And it's very hard for them to view the world the way the founders do. So you've every founder, guy or girl, like we got to get out of our own shoes and
Yep.
stop viewing it from our perspective. Like just start from their perspective. And
So
like I was lucky, I got to work on the real estate side, so I understood a little bit more of that.
yeah, I want to just talk about the marketing conversation a little bit. So I agree with you on the marketing side. But here's the challenge that I experienced is that marketing is a garbage in, garbage out thing. And so
Hmm.
if you have lack of clarity on what you do, who you do it for, et cetera, and put it through a marketing agency, machine, you're going to get mush on the back end of it as well. And so I found it, if I were to do it again, my side, I would commit to more time at the bar at small conferences. And just getting, because that, a big conference like NAA we're just at, it's too big. You can't find that, there's no one's trapped. But if you're at if it's a SFR conference in Austin and everyone's staying at the Marriott, you just sit at that Marriott and you buy drinks and you will have all the conversations you need to have. And you'll have that person talking to the other person and they'll be able to you'll be able to hear faster. Because the outbound calling we tried, but then if no one picks up, what kind of data do you get? The outbound emailing we tried, but if you're obsessing over subject line that may not matter to the audience and the data is so delayed. But if you go sit at a bar and talk to real people who are real buyers, and if they can't understand what you're doing, then you got to reboot.
I totally agree with that. Yes, I don't think I do not think anybody should spend on marketing until they've nailed the persona, the value props, the objections, like the competitive matrix, like the one sentence copy, right? The short videos that you build and you test directly, and then you can hit the button. But totally agree that you can't spend on marketing too early. And I think that there's too many young people today that are afraid to go sit down and look at somebody in the eye and just talk with them. Right. I
Completely
mean,
agree.
I've talked to young people who are working in sales. They're like, "Oh yeah, I sent the email. I'm not sure what's going on." And this is a friend. Like, I'm not talking any specifics here, but like a friend who's younger, getting out of college. I'm like, "Hey, did you follow up?" And they're like, "Yeah, I sent another email like 4 days later." I'm like, "Did you pick up the phone? Did you drive to their office? Like, what's stopping you?" And if I don't know what it is. It's it's culturally, there was like a brief period where everybody got too digitized, and they're like, "Yeah, humans. I'm afraid."
Yeah, I
But
mean,
PropTech,
depending on
you
your
got to get
age
out there.
group, there was a period of time where you had to walk across the bar and buy a girl a drink or a guy a drink, and that doesn't happen anymore. And that's
Yeah,
that's a caveman
exactly.
analogy, but the caveman is who we are, or person is who we are.
Yeah. But I think that yeah, culturally, yeah, the tailwind, right? And so
Yeah.
or headwind, where people are like not having as many face-to-face conversations, and then COVID just dramatically accelerated that. People are like, "Ooh, do everything from my couch, my PJs." Like, no, that's our industry is never going to be that. You got to get
Yeah.
out there.
Yeah.
And so yeah, we love the conferences. AIM is our favorite conference where we met. We love what Steve and Dennis have done, and because they've brought in a very focused group of property management companies. And so for any property managers that are listening, I'd say when you're trying to solve a solution, it's awesome to get your stakeholders ready, figure out what their objections are going to be, and then you're asking those questions, because it really is a handshake, right? There's a champion from the tech side. Let's say it's Amenify. There's usually a champion from the property side, and the property side, they want to make it happen too, but they've got to go into a big boardroom with all these other stakeholders that are going to be like, "Hey, I need stuff done. Like, your thing isn't more important than my thing. I was supposed to get this done a year ago and it got pushed on the roadmap." And so just like part of that handshake together, you can solve in person, but both sides can be building a bridge. And I think real estate's getting better at that. Like, I don't know if you remember this, Guillermo, but 10 years ago, I felt like the innovation person at a lot of these real estate groups was like an intern or somebody that
Yeah.
had a year of job experience.
Yeah.
And no disrespect to young people, but that's a bad sign for if you're a salesperson and you think your champion has no direct reports and has been at the company for a year and is 3 years out of college. That deal is going to take a long time. And again, we all got to start somewhere. Everybody work hard, but just for it's not a good sign if the property management company is approaching innovation with a person that is not empowered. And sometimes this person gets 10 years experience. I've seen this, big companies, somebody gets brought in for innovation, but there's 3 levels between them and the CEO, or 2 levels. Bad sign.
I have
And
empathy for those that are in the innovation seat, because I feel as though it's a definition of getting screwed. You kind of have a lot of accountability but no responsibility.
yeah,
Right. And that's
oh,
like
it's
a
so
turtle
true.
on its back. That you really are vulnerable. And I empathize with them, because they've gotten those roles in many cases because they were unique, special, they earned them. But it's difficult because now you're not only, you're a chooser. You got to go find technology, find problems, and then broker them. But that's not what you get paid for. And that's a tough
Hmm.
gig. And you got to be
I
a
think
reseller.
if I was, and this would be cool if like there was like somebody listening or somebody that followed up after, but like if you're on the property manager side of the bridge, what, like if it was me and I was running real estate company XYZ, I think I would really elevate the CTO and we would employ way more technology people. But I think I would culturally train and empower innovation at each level. So I would like my ops leader, I would
Mhm.
want to have that team be like, hey, like you are an innovator. Tell us how you want to solve things. And then I'd go to the marketing team, and be like, you're like the leader of marketing. Hey, you're an innovator. Like, here's how we can approach it. Here's a framework for like all the tech stack you're going to assemble, work with the CTO. And then kind of down the line that way. I would not like single out an innovator and then like have this innovator try to like run around and learn a pain point and learn the workflows for each division of the
Mhm.
business. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, well,
Like,
I think the challenge, like in the innovation seat, is that it's a solution based seat, whereas I've now shifted my thinking to it really should be a problem focused seat. So rather than being an innovation role, maybe you're the head of unsolved problems, right? Or like,
yeah,
and own it that way.
flip it,
The
flip it.
twist
Totally
being
agree.
that I'm not stopping you.
These are the three hardest things facing the business. And like, here's two potential solutions for each. Research them and come back. I love
Yeah,
that. I
I would
love
do
that.
that. I would look at it that way. I just find that like, and again, it comes back to getting to hell yes. If you are solving people's problems and you're head of innovation, you're going to get a lot more attention. So find the problems first before you find the solutions. At that point, then you're on the same side of the table of everyone you're speaking with versus, you know, a vendor trying to get you to get on side and then push something through, or maybe you've got some discretionary budget to do pilots, and now you're kind of asking for people within the business for their time to do things that you think that are interesting, but doesn't align
Yeah,
with them not getting paid.
totally agree. And like, I think this would be true for everybody that's trying to get a deal done is like, who's the actual stakeholder? What are like? What are their actual pain points? Like, forget about you for a second. Forget about
Mhm,
your product. Like, what are the pain points of the actual decision maker today? Like top
mhm,
three. And I won't name names, but there was like a big group out of the South, and we were pitching a solution, and we thought we were speaking to the pain points, and then we found out months later that the CEO was crazy stressed because he was like, I got to raise money for what we're doing. Like, and he was traveling internationally to like
mhm.
where like the big players are. And I was like, well, wait a second, why don't you tell me that? Like, here's 3 slides on what we do, AI powered resident commerce, blah, 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 blah. Like, hey, like you're going to supercharge your portfolio. You have an Iron Man suit for all your on-site teams. And he was like, oh, this is sick. Like, yes, like you're now it's the same product, like nothing changed, like everybody
Yeah,
else is still happy, but you've solved my pain point, which is like one more arrow in a big quiver of arrows that helps us raise money. And so you just got to keep asking questions and not like walk into that meeting and assume that the pain points are what you thought the pain points were just because you've done it
yeah,
1,000 times. You still have to know the like who's the decision maker, what are their top pain points, and you got to be honest. Like if his pain point was something like maintenance, we got to have too many maintenance people, I'd be like, yo, you need telemaintenance. There's
yeah.
a guy. But like get the hell out of the way, and then he or she will remember you as somebody that was like, oh, like dude actually listened, he wasn't self-serving, and pointed me in the direction of something like solve my pain point. And I think in our industry, if you're in it for the long term, clients will appreciate that much more than them you trying to like, put lipstick on a pig and be
Yeah.
like, I could totally solve your maintenance problems. Like, no, we could not. I mean, we
Well,
could do handyman, but we would not do telemaintenance. So like,
really
um,
interesting. But the segue on that is that even pain points are fungible, right? Like the thing that I found, and this aha happened to me last week, which is again a benefit for the conferences, is to go out there and have these conversations. So by luck, I ran into another guy that I know who's sitting there having a beer with somebody. I sat down, chatted, and I asked this question. I said, "Hey, I'm really curious. Like I'm kind of getting because we've got these campaigns running the subject lines where we're getting really random responses." And I said, "I got a question for you. As
mhm.
an ops leader, what's your priority? Is it budget attainment? Are you staying on budget or getting the job done? They always say both. Okay, both. And I asked this person, both. Okay, everyone said both. And then, of course the asset manager's like, budget. And I'm like, okay, that didn't help me very well. So I sleep on it, wake up the next day, and I ran into the guy the next day at an event. I'm like, okay, I'm going to rephrase the question I asked you last night. He goes, what question? Because I asked you yesterday, what do you care most about? Staying on budget or getting the job done? And he said, yeah. And I said, yeah. And I said, both. And I said, okay, I'm changing the question. And he goes, okay, I'll play along. And I said, what would you get fired for? Not getting the job done or hitting budget?
What do you say?
Getting the job done.
Yeah.
And so far, everyone I talk to have 100% consensus on getting the job done as a priority. So now I'm thinking that all of our pitches that are saying to an operations or a maintenance leader that says, hey, wouldn't it be great to create NOI? That is not on their list of problems to solve today.
No, totally agree.
They're going to be tuned to what's going to get me fired. And that's getting the job done. And so when the getting the job done conversations, I talk about now I say, how many open job positions do you have? Well, 15. Is that helping you get the job done? No. And in my mind, I'm also, and there's the budget.
Totally agree. Yeah. And then and that's good copy. And this for everybody out there is like, if you're copywriting for your marketing company or your market your business is like, we drive NOI. It's like, no, back to the lab. That's not going to get it done. Right. It's like, hey, we get 100% of the jobs done, or we have a 10-second response time, or we drive $60 per unit per year in ancillary income, and we can go live in 2 weeks. Right. Like it's gotta be numbers driven, and those numbers need to be hyper relevant just to your stakeholder. Stop trying to pitch the whole world with every sentence. I think there's such a proclivity to speak in these abstractions, the whole world may be listening to me. It's like, bullshit, dude. No one's listening. Everybody's busy. No one cares about you. You're not special. Right? You got to speak extremely specifically to your exact audience. And it's okay if your uncle or your aunt goes to your website and doesn't have a freaking inkling of what you do. That's okay, because they don't matter. You just figure out those few people and write amazing value content that is hyper specific to them. I'm so glad that you've honed in on that. That's awesome.
Well, but it comes from conversations. This gets back to the marketing conversations. You've got to talk to people. If people are your buyers, you got to talk to people. And I find sometimes just the psychological, the physical experience of having the words leave my mouth and see someone's reaction on their face and waiting for that pause, waiting for it to process. And then they go, it's like, I get it. And you go, okay, now I can proceed. But I feel like sometimes we feel as sellers, we feel like we got to paint the whole picture before, they get it, and have a reveal at the very end of it. I don't think that that's the truth anymore. I never even taught in sales training, have the reveal, build their intrigue them along the way. No, you got to earn that picture, color by numbers, hole by hole, because you can't. They're not going to listen to the whole picture. They're going to check it out.
Oh my God. Yeah. And it's probably because people weren't getting out enough, so that when they see someone, they're like, okay, I haven't shipped a product, I haven't, made a sale or something in a long time. I need to explode with all the stuff we do in the bells and whistles and instant tune out. That's not valuable for the audience.
I saw a picture one time of somebody who is it was a cartoon, and it was a founder fishing, and the founder had 100 hooks at the end of one rod. Right. And of course, you don't catch anything. You can't catch anything. The fish can't even find the bait on the hook because there's so many hooks in the line or hooks in the water. You got to find that one hook that works. And that's the tough part. And then and then everything else, just cut it, get rid of it. It's confusing.
Agree. Yeah. And there's all kinds of considerations because you're trying to hire, you're trying to get investors excited. And so you're yeah, but no, it's a good business will not struggle to raise money. A good business won't struggle to hire. And a good business needs just good customers that are happy and are growing and get more customers. And so you're right. Totally agree. Wish I could beam that message back in time. That's okay.
Me too. So we'll try and tie this up real quick here. But one thing that's interesting about your product is the urgency thing. So how do you capture urgency? when they're, how do you know? Like, I mean, because it is, again, are they seeking more revenue? Are they trying to are they trying to solve a problem of, I need to get, like, the property manager? Are they looking to get more revenue? Are they like, what are they looking to solve? This is the time wall that has, like, I've got to solve this by this quarter. This is a priority this quarter, and here's why. Like, it feels to me that's a little more vague. It feels to me that's vague for you, but is it? I'm missing it, or is that the way to buy?
Well, I think in any relationship, and shoot, I mean, business is what I'm talking about, but really any relationship, it's like there's this kind of like imbalance that can happen where it's like, a lot of people are trying to sell a product, and it's like, gosh, I'm really trying to help this group within this time frame because there's a lot of pressure on salespeople to deliver within a time window. Um, but for us, because like, we don't cost anything to the real estate. We don't do like these like little gimmicks of like, hey, the price is going up, in a quarter, like when Zillow was successful with this. They were like, do this now or its price is going up. And it worked. So like I don't pretend to have a general catch-all solution. Different companies are successful in different ways, creating scarcity and urgency. For us, we want to be a spoke in everybody's hub.
Mhm.
And so our mantra that we repeat out is like, hey, like at some point or another, like we're going to work with this property, whether it's through the real estate or whether it's through your property management software or it's through something. But like if you work with us directly, like here are the bells and whistles you get or the ancillary income that you get. And I told some of our real estate clients, I was like, hey, you work with RealPage, so we'll go live with you in 9 months, or we can go work together now. And here are the benefits if we work together. But
Mhm.
like RealPage is an amazing, app with Loft, and we're happy to power it that way, and we're rocking and rolling. That's
Yeah.
very unique to us. So like, let me, um, for the average product that's getting out there, I think it's demonstrating momentum, trying to show like, hey, you can be ahead of your competition, or if you work with their competitors, be like, hey, your competition's getting ahead of you. And like, here's how much money you lost this quarter, or here's how much money you could have earned this quarter. But it's
Mhm.
got to be concrete, it's got to be finite and not hand wavy. You missed out on some NOI this quarter. Someone's like, oh yeah, did I?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Um, and so uh that's one way around the scarcity and time wall. But dude, I don't know. Like I feel like it's like I've been throwing spaghetti at the wall for like 8 years, and now you're asking me to look for the patterns. But the reality was, it was just like throwing. It was just throwing. It was just go, just
So what,
pitch
so
and
what
pitch.
happened in 2024? I think 2024 is the year. What was the year? I was looking at your usage chart or your units chart. Maybe in the last month you posted something, and there was a clear inflection point where you
Oh
guys
yeah.
curved upwards. What happened
Oh, I
then?
mean, like for sure, the product innovation was we needed an API
Mhm.
so that we could live inside of RealPage, Entrata, and like every other property,
Yeah.
Zego property management platforms. Because for us, we sell a vitamin. We do not sell a painkiller. A
Mhm.
lot of like your company, Painkiller, and like all my buddies that are VCs, one in particular, always laugh at him because we trade jokes like your classic
Yeah.
foil between a founder and a VC. Like I don't think he does any work. He thinks I'm an entitled brat, and um, the um, he is so correct though that you have to sell painkillers. And Amenify has always been selling vitamins. And so what's interesting for us is like we're super easy to work with, but like we kind of move the needle for resident retention and engagement. Like of course we have case studies and we make money and all this good stuff, but like if somebody isn't getting jobs done for maintenance, they don't have time to like do some nice things like tree
Mhm.
trimmings for a renter.
Mhm.
And so for us, and we knew this was the case, like we had to have service pros in 1,000 cities. It takes time. Um, but the big product innovation and distribution to land the plane to what you said at the beginning was like once you build an API and you make it really easy for a big property management platform to like just turn you on, like no economic friction. People are making money downstream. They're hitting their KPIs because they want app engagement or rewards usage or whatever. Like light bulb flashed. And now when I chat with our friends that are in the PMC world, I'm like, you're not really who I should talk to. Like, I need to go hang out with our friends at these property management platforms because they're working so hard. So you have an awesome product and we're going to integrate with them and your
Mhm.
residents are going to benefit as a result. So we don't really sell directly to the real estate so much unless there's like a burning desire to like drive ancillary income, and for like 20,000 units, 10,000 units, something like that. And so for us, product market fit was with a platform.
Got you.
On the real estate side, product market fit was not a single 200 unit property, and
Yeah.
that's true for everybody. Like if you sell an EV charging station that requires like a $50,000 upfront deposit, yeah, you're selling door to door. Like, good luck. That is a hard freaking sale. I've done that, or at least sold at that level. And then for us, we went all the way to the very tippy top up in the clouds, and we're saying, hey, like, we're scalable, plug us in everywhere, and we turn it on. Everybody gets concierge support, and it
Yep.
doesn't cost anything to the real estate. And
And it doesn't cost. And it doesn't cost
that
you.
that was the match, right? And so, um, man, yeah, I could expand on that, but I'll land the plane because I realize we'll keep this short. And but hopefully this is helpful to the audience, and just
Well, I think
bouncing around, hearing a different perspective.
and what's not lost on me from the conversation we had in this one as well is that you must understand the managers have decision rights, and so for them to
Of
do
course,
something,
critical decision rights. They're so
right?
important.
So your value proposition has to have, there's got to be something in it for them.
Hmm.
If it's
Oh
all
yeah,
upside for owners, okay, that's great. But if I'm gonna, that's the conscientious decision is to think about it. But if I'm going to take career risk, personal risk on choosing your way of doing this, and I don't get anything out of it, then it seems like not my problem.
yeah, totally agree. And for real estate products to be successful, they have to be successful for the people that interact with them, on-site managers, marketing teams, whatever.
Mhm.
Totally agree. Like, what's in it for me? Everybody's going to ask that. And we've seen products that were successful at a corporate level. On-site team didn't like it. Dead on the
Go.
vine. Dead on the vine. Like, maybe it'll work for 6 months or 2 years, but like at
Mhm.
some point it withers. So yeah, we had to build out an ambassador programs for all the on-site managers,
Yep.
and it's great. Like now, like they get a bunch of great perks and money for stuff, and they can help give away, free things to residents. We give them renewal gifts that they can hand out, whoops gifts they can hand out. We allow them to buy credits that they can give to the residents, so like a
Oh, nice.
multiplier effect. And so, yeah, this is a great point. You like don't overlook on-site teams.
Yeah, they'll make or break you. So when you go back, look at yourself, and we talked a little about this earlier, but like we probably touched on a few. Look back at yourself, younger Everett, or maybe even people that are joining your company right now, and you want to give them some advice to get heads up on. What's the piece of advice? What's the single nugget that you look to make sure they don't forget this, don't forget this, don't forget this.
Um, oh man, like there's a great book, Checklist Manifesto. Really changed my life because I don't like checklists. It's like I have a lot of checklists here. Make sure we
Mhm.
maintain quality. But I would just say, like, if it was one word, I mean, Danish, our CTO, and I, we really look for curious people. And I think the word curious, like, if anybody can be curious, that encapsulates so many good attributes from my perspective, because that means they're confident enough in themselves to ask questions. They're excited to learn. I mean, really have a growth mindset if you're
Mhm.
curious. And like I have yet to find many curious people that like don't resonate with a
Mhm.
good working environment. And because it means like they're in the game, like there's attention, there's energy. It's like, okay, you told me to do this, but like, hey, I'm excited to understand a little bit more, whether
Mhm.
that's x-axis, z-axis, y-axis. I want to like expand a knowledge base. And for us, like that was pretty important just because there's so many moving pieces.
Mhm.
So um yeah, final answer, curious.
Curious. Ted Lasso, right?
Yeah. Oh,
Be
that's right.
curious.
Oh, great show. I believed that before it was on the show, but probably said it much better than me. Um, yeah, he's throwing the darts in that scene,
That's right.
and he's just like, yeah, great scene. I
He
remember.
steals them. But I'm not left-handed. Steals his line from Princess Bride. How can people get a hold of you if they want to chat more?
Oh man, I'm all over the place. Yeah, LinkedIn, Everett@amenify.com. Um, but see me at a conference, please say hi. Like the way we met, Guillermo.
Yeah.
So like, I love it. I love the industry. So thank you so much for hosting, and looking forward to seeing you at the next one.
Likewise. Who should we have on next?
Oh man, I'll have to get back to you, dude. There's so many people I've been chatting with. I'll send you a note. I'll give you three choices.
Sweet.
Um, but Yeah, I want to see if like one guy's ready for it before he comes. Because like for example, when we were chatting, I was like, hey, let's wait until we announce Entrata.
Yeah.
And so it's like I can, highlight that big win. The team worked hard on that for 2 years. So it may be relevant for timing.
Excellent. That makes good sense. All right, cool. Well, thank you everyone for listening today. Thank you, Everett, for the insights and healthy conversation. I appreciate everyone's coming together to listen to the show and all the inputs we're getting throughout. Great feedback at NAA from a bunch of folks, just like you didn't even know we're listeners. They're listening in. So we appreciate the opportunity to have these conversations because we hope to create an environment that everyone can talk a little bit about how we're thinking about what we're selling, right? And the value we provide and why we do these things. So appreciate you sharing today. I know it's fun. It's fun to have these conversations. If you're following us on LinkedIn after the live show, just you can comment there, like anything. Both Everett and I will get notifications and we'll answer any questions there. If you're catching the podcast, like, subscribe. Those are always valuable. So we'll help us can find us better. And otherwise, don't forget, this is brought to you by Iris CX, for AI telemanagement software for property management, solving triage and trips. Thanks everyone for listening. Thank you, Everett, again. This is awesome. Appreciate everyone. Take care. Have a great
Cheers.
weekend.